In the early morning haze along the rugged coastline of San Diego, retired Navy SEAL Marcus Hale moved with purpose. His boots crunched softly on the pebbled shore near the harbor, the salty breeze ruffling the edges of his worn tactical jacket. Beside him, Titan, his loyal German shepherd, trotted steadily, nose to the ground, alert and ready. The pair had come out early for what Marcus called a routine training exercise, a way to keep both mind and body sharp, even after years away from active duty. But beneath the familiar rhythm of their drills, a flicker of something unexpected stirred. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to like and subscribe, and tell me, what does heroism mean to you? And have you ever stumbled upon a piece of history in your own life? Marcus had always been a man rooted in history, not just the chapters inked in books, but the stories etched in blood and honor. His respect for the sacrifices of those who came before him was why he chose San Diego as his home, close to the sea, near the naval base where generations of servicemen and women had launched into the unknown. Today, however, his training took an unplanned turn. As Titan led the way along a narrow inlet, the dog's keen senses picked up on a faint scent, something out of place amid the brine and driftwood. Marcus followed, curiosity tightening in his chest. They moved toward an old pier, its wooden beams weathered by decades of storms and neglect. Underneath the rusted beams, something glinted, a small metallic object, half buried in sand and seaweed. Marcus knelt, fingers brushing away the grit to reveal a tarnished metal. The worn surface bore a faded inscription, a name, a date, and an emblem that Marcus recognized immediately. It was a World War II medal, one that had belonged to Sergeant James Mallory, a hero whose name had all but faded from memory. The discovery sent a ripple through Marcus's mind. Sergeant Mallory was a legend whispered only in select circles, a soldier known for his valor in the Pacific Theater, whose bravery had saved countless lives, but whose story had slipped through the cracks of time. The medal's sudden reappearance was more than chance. It felt like a summons, a call to uncover the story that had been buried alongside it. Marcus rose, holding the medal carefully as Titan sat obediently by his side, eyes gleaming with intelligence and unwavering loyalty. The bond between man and dog had grown through countless missions. Both in and out of combat, Titan was more than a companion. He was a partner, a guardian, and a silent witness to the weight of Marcus's past and the promise of his future. The harbor around them was beginning to stir. Fishermen prepared their boats, and the distant hum of the city edged into the quiet of dawn. Marcus's thoughts drifted to the stories he had heard about Mallory, tales of courage, loss, and a medal that vanished during the chaos of war. How many had forgotten? How many had chosen to forget? These questions pressed heavily on Marcus's conscience. Later that day, Marcus found himself in a small, cluttered office just a few blocks from the waterfront. The walls were lined with maps, photographs, and faded newspaper clippings. This was the domain of Clara Evans, a local historian who had dedicated her life to preserving San Diego's military heritage. When Marcus entered, Clara looked up from a stack of documents, her eyes bright with a mix of surprise and hope. "You found it," she said softly, reaching out to touch the medal that Marcus had placed on her desk. "I've been searching for that for years. Sergeant Mallory's story deserves to be remembered." Clara's passion was palpable. She spoke of Mallory not just as a soldier, but as a man, a hero lost to time, whose valor had been overshadowed by politics and silence. She explained that the medal had disappeared decades ago under murky circumstances, a mystery tangled with whispers of betrayal and greed. There were rumors that powerful collectors and dealers had suppressed the truth, turning history into a commodity. Marcus listened intently, the weight of responsibility settling over him. He wasn't a historian, but he was a soldier, and the call to honor a fallen comrade was clear. He looked down at Titan, who seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, his tail thumping softly against the floor. Together, Marcus and Clara began to piece together the fragments of Mallory's legacy. They delved into old military records, personal letters, and faded photographs that painted a portrait of a man who had stood firm in the face of unimaginable odds. Yet the deeper they dug, the more they uncovered the shadows lurking behind the official stories. The disappearance of the medal was no accident. Clara revealed the name of a man who had long cast a dark shadow over Mallory's memory. Victor Crane, a wealthy collector with a reputation for acquiring war memorabilia through questionable means. Crane's influence extended beyond mere collecting. He was rumored to have connections that stretched into the political and military establishments, a web designed to keep certain truths buried. The more Marcus contemplated Victor Crane, the more he recognized the challenge ahead. This was no simple quest for a lost artifact. It was a confrontation with a man who thrived on secrecy and power, someone who would stop at nothing to preserve his empire built on stolen valor. As the sun dipped behind the harbor, casting long shadows over the city, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. The medal was more than metal and ribbon. It was a key to a story that demanded justice, a beacon to illuminate the forgotten sacrifices of Sergeant Mallory. That night, as Titan lay curled at his feet, Marcus stared out over the water, the medal resting on the desk before him. The harbor's quiet was deceptive. Beneath its calm surface, currents of history and truth churned fiercely. He knew this was only the beginning. The path ahead would be fraught with danger and deception, but Marcus was ready. For Sergeant Mallory, for history, and for the bond he shared with Titan, he would see this through. Outside, the city lights flickered to life, and the distant call of a ship's horn echoed. A solemn reminder that some stories, once lost to the tides of time, could yet be reclaimed. The morning light filtered through the dusty windows of the San Diego Historical Society, casting long shadows across stacks of aging documents and faded photographs. Marcus Hale sat across from Clara Evans, the medal resting between them like a silent relic of a forgotten past. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and ink, a reminder that history was never truly dead. It lingered, waiting for those willing to listen. Clara's fingers traced the edges of a brittle newspaper clipping, her voice steady but tinged with frustration. Mallory was never just a soldier. He was a leader, a strategist, someone who saved lives during the fiercest battles in the Pacific. But after the war, his name faded. The medal vanished, and with it, his story. Marcus leaned forward, eyes narrowing as he absorbed every word. Why would someone hide his story? A hero like that deserves to be remembered. Clara shook her head slowly. Because the truth threatens certain people. Powerful men who profit from war memorabilia and control the narrative for their own gain. Victor Crane is at the center of it all. The name hung in the room like a dark cloud. Marcus had heard whispers already. Crane, a collector with a ruthless reputation, known for acquiring rare artifacts through means far from ethical. But hearing Clara's conviction gave the rumors weight. I've tried to bring this to the authorities, Clara continued, her voice dropping to a whisper, but they dismiss me. They say it's just a lost medal, nothing more. But it's not. It's a symbol of betrayal and greed that stretches back decades. Marcus glanced down at Titan, who lay alert at his feet, ears perked. The dog's unwavering presence was a steadying force, a reminder that even in the face of resistance, they were not alone. Marcus's military instincts flared. This was more than a historical mystery. It was a battle for truth. Clara pulled a faded photograph from the pile, its edges curled and worn. "This is Sergeant Mallory, taken just before his final mission. Look closer." She pointed to a faint mark on the metal in the photo, an engraving almost invisible to the naked eye. Marcus squinted, the significance dawning on him. A secret code? Exactly. It ties the metal to a larger story, one that Victor Crane doesn't want uncovered. Clara's eyes darkened. He's built an empire out of war relics. But some of those items are tainted by stolen valor, by silenced heroes. The weight of that realization settled heavy in the room. Marcus's mind raced back to the harbor, to the metal he had found half buried beneath the pier. It wasn't just a forgotten token. It was a key to exposing a web of deceit. "Have you ever confronted Crane directly?" Marcus asked. Clara hesitated. "Not in person. He's too powerful, too well-connected. His security is tight, and those who cross him tend to disappear from the history books, quietly and permanently." The mention of danger sharpened Marcus's focus. His years as a Navy SEAL had taught him to read between the lines, to recognize when a threat was more than just talk. Victor Crane was no ordinary adversary. He was a man who wielded influence like a weapon. Marcus stood, pacing slowly as he formulated a plan. "We need to be smart about this. Start by gathering as much information as we can. Security, schedules, associates. We'll need to know everything before we make a move." Clara nodded, pulling out a worn notebook filled with scribbled notes and contacts. "I've been tracking Crane's auctions and private sales. He's planning something soon. An exclusive event where some of his rarest items will be on display." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "That's where the metal might resurface?" "Exactly. If we can get close, maybe we can confirm its presence, and maybe recover it." Outside, the city buzzed with the mundane rhythms of daily life, oblivious to the undercurrents of intrigue stirring beneath its surface. Marcus and Clara's alliance was an unlikely one. A seasoned warrior and a passionate historian. But their shared determination forged a bond stronger than circumstance. As the day wore on, Marcus and Titan slipped into the shadows of San Diego's streets, blending into the fabric of the city. Titan's nose led them past crowded markets, through narrow alleys, and into the heart of Crane's network. Marcus watched as the dog's keen senses picked up faint traces, whispers of perfume, the faintest hint of leather, the scent of old wood and polished brass. They paused outside a nondescript building, the sign faded but unmistakable. Crane's Curiosities. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of varnish and history. Marcus's hand rested on the doorframe, Titan at his side, ready. The shop was a treasure trove of artifacts, swords, medals, helmets, all displayed with an almost reverent care. But beneath the surface, Marcus sensed the undercurrent of greed and secrecy. Behind the counter stood a man, tall, impeccably dressed, with cold, calculating eyes. Victor Crane. The air between them crackled with unspoken challenge. Crane's smile was thin, devoid of warmth. "Can I help you?" Marcus stepped forward, voice steady. "I'm looking for something that belongs to Sergeant James Mallory." Crane's eyes flickered, a shadow crossing his face before he masked it with amusement. "Mallory? A name from the past. What makes you think I have anything to do with him?" Before Marcus could reply, Titan growled softly, alerting him to movement behind a heavy curtain. Crane's gaze shifted for a flash, betraying a flicker of unease. Clara's voice came through a discreet earpiece, steady and urgent. "Be careful. Crane's security is tighter than it looks. Marcus nodded, his mind racing. This was no longer just a search. It was a confrontation with a man who would go to great lengths to protect his secrets. As Crane turned his back momentarily, Marcus's eyes caught a glimpse of a wooden chest tucked away in the corner. It was old, its surface scarred, but something about it called to him. Titan's nose twitched, directing Marcus's attention. The tension in the room tightened like a coil. Crane's presence was a warning, but Marcus knew that if they wanted answers, they had to push forward. Clara whispered urgently, "That chest. There might be a hidden compartment." With a silent signal, Marcus prepared to act. Titan stayed close, a silent guardian ready to spring into action. In that moment, the past and present collided. Marcus, Clara, and Titan standing at the edge of a revelation that could shatter the carefully constructed facade surrounding Sergeant Mallory's legacy. The stakes were higher than ever, and the true battle was only beginning. The air inside Crane's Curiosities was thick with the scent of polished wood and stale secrets. Marcus Hale's eyes never wavered from the tall, impeccably dressed man who had introduced himself as Victor Crane, though every muscle in his body was taut, primed for what might come next. Titan sat quietly at his feet, ears flicking toward the faintest sounds, a silent sentinel in the midst of the tension. Crane's smile was thin, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. "You're quite persistent," he said smoothly, voice low and controlled. "But I assure you, I have no interest in Sergeant Mallory's medal." Marcus met that gaze evenly. "I don't believe that. Not after all the rumors. Not after what I've learned." Crane's eyes flicked toward the back of the shop, where a heavy curtain hung like a veil over something less visible to casual visitors. For a brief moment, a flicker of unease crossed his face, quickly masked by practiced composure. Titan's nose twitched, and Marcus followed the dog's gaze. Behind the curtain, the faint outline of a wooden chest caught the light, a weathered naval chest that seemed out of place among the carefully curated displays. Marcus's instincts sharpened. That chest was a nexus of secrets. "May I?" Marcus gestured toward the chest, his voice steady but edged with challenge. Crane's smile tightened. "Please don't mistake my hospitality for openness." He stepped toward the chest, but Marcus was quicker. With a swift motion, he moved past Crane, Titan padding silently at his side. The chest's surface was scarred with time, its wood worn, but solid. Marcus knelt, running his fingers along the edges, feeling for seams or hidden latches. Titan sat attentively, eyes scanning the room for any sign of alarm. As Marcus worked, Crane's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Be careful what you're looking for. Some truths are better left buried." Marcus didn't respond, his focus unbroken. At the bottom corner of the chest, his fingers found a small, nearly invisible catch. With a soft click, a hidden compartment slid open. Inside lay a collection of papers, yellowed, fragile, but unmistakably important. Marcus carefully unfolded a letter, the handwriting elegant and deliberate. It was a correspondence from Mallory himself, addressed to a superior officer, detailing a covert operation and hinting at a betrayal within their ranks. The letter was a damning piece of evidence, a fragment of history that challenged the official narrative. Titan growled softly, sensing the charged atmosphere. Crane's expression darkened, and he took a step forward, voice low and threatening. "You're meddling in affairs that could ruin reputations." Marcus met him without flinching. Reputations built on lies deserve to be exposed. Suddenly, The shop's quiet was shattered by the sound of footsteps approaching. A pair of burly men appeared from a side door, their faces hard and unyielding. Crane's security had arrived. "Gentlemen," Crane said smoothly, "it seems we have guests who are overly curious." Marcus stood, positioning Titan between himself and the newcomers. The dog's hackles rose, teeth bared in a warning growl. The tension escalated in an instant. One of the men lunged, but Titan was faster, snapping decisively before the attacker could reach Marcus. The second man hesitated, eyes darting between the dog and Marcus. In the blink of an eye, Marcus moved, using his training to disarm and incapacitate the threat with precise efficiency. Crane's eyes widened, a flicker of respect crossing his features before hardening again. "You're more capable than I expected." Marcus's gaze was unyielding. "I'm here to uncover the truth, whatever it takes." Crane's smile returned, colder this time. "Then you have no idea what you're up against." As the security men recovered, Marcus grabbed the letter, slipping it safely into his jacket. Titan remained alert, muscles coiled, ready for whatever came next. The encounter made one thing clear. Victor Crane was not merely a collector, but a guardian of secrets, willing to use force to keep them hidden. Marcus realized the stakes were higher than he had imagined. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows over the city. Marcus and Titan slipped away from Crane's estate under the cloak of dusk, the weight of the letter heavy in Marcus's pocket. Back in the quiet of his apartment, Clara awaited their return, her eyes bright with anticipation and concern. Marcus laid the letter on the table, and together they pored over its contents, deciphering the coded language and piecing together clues that hinted at a conspiracy reaching far beyond a missing medal. The letter revealed a covert operation gone wrong, implicating high-ranking officials who had reasons to silence Mallory and erase his legacy. It spoke of stolen honors, manipulated records, and a betrayal that cost lives and shattered trust. Clara's voice was barely above a whisper as she read, "This changes everything." Mallory wasn't forgotten by accident. He was erased. Marcus nodded, the resolve in his eyes hardening. "We have to take this further. Exposing Crane and the truth behind Mallory's story means confronting a network that's been protected for decades." Clara looked at him, determination matching his own. "We'll need more than just these papers. Evidence, witnesses, anything that can bring this conspiracy into the light." Marcus glanced at Titan, who rested his head on his paws but remained alert. The dog had been more than a companion. He was a partner in this mission, a symbol of loyalty and courage. The night deepened, and as the city hummed quietly outside, Marcus, Clara, and Titan prepared for the challenges ahead. The discovery in Crane's private collection was a turning point, a tangible link to the past that could unravel a carefully constructed lie. But with that revelation came danger. Crane's reach was long, his influence deep, and Marcus knew that the path to justice would demand every ounce of skill, trust, and bravery he possessed. In the shadows of San Diego, the hunt for truth was no longer a solitary journey. It was a battle, a fight to restore honor to a forgotten hero, and to confront a legacy of deception that still threatened to silence those who dared to remember. The night hung heavy over San Diego as Marcus Hale and Clara Evans pored over the fragile documents they'd salvaged from Victor Crane's private collection. The dim light of a single desk lamp flickered, casting shadows across the room, lined with shelves of dusty books and yellowed files. Titan lay curled nearby, ears twitching at every distant sound. His alertness a constant reassurance in the creeping stillness. Clara fingered the edges of a folded letter, her voice low and strained. These papers confirm what we feared. Mallory wasn't just forgotten, he was erased. Someone high up didn't want his story told. Marcus nodded, eyes scanning the lines of coded language and official reports. And it wasn't just a cover-up. It's an ongoing conspiracy. His jaw clenched. Crane's just the tip of the iceberg. The weight of the revelation settled over them like a shroud. Despite the gravity of their discovery, Marcus felt the familiar stirrings of determination, the same resolve that had seen him through countless missions. But this was different. This fight wasn't on a battlefield. It was in the shadows of power and influence, where truth was a commodity and justice a rare currency. "We need to dig deeper," Clara said, pulling out a map of the city marked with red pins and notes. "There are places we haven't looked. Archives, veterans' halls, even some private collections. But it won't be easy. Crane's network runs deep, and his men are watching." Marcus glanced toward the window, where the city lights flickered like distant stars. "We'll have to be careful. If they catch wind of what we're doing, we're targets." Clara's eyes hardened. "They're already watching. I've noticed strange cars near my place. Someone's following me." Marcus's hand rested lightly on Titan's head. The dog lifted his gaze, sensing the tension. "We'll watch each other's backs," Marcus said firmly. "We're not alone in this." The following days were a blur of clandestine meetings and careful reconnaissance. Marcus and Titan moved through the city with practiced stealth, their presence barely noticed as they shadowed Crane's known associates and monitored auction houses rumored to be linked to his operations. Clara coordinated with her contacts in the historical community, gathering whispers and leads that slowly began to form a mosaic of truth. One evening, as twilight bled into night, Marcus and Titan lay hidden on a rooftop overlooking a private auction house. The venue was an elegant mansion, tucked behind wrought iron gates, its manicured gardens illuminated by soft floodlights. Inside, the city's elite gathered, their whispers mingling with the clink of fine glassware and the rustle of expensive fabrics. Marcus adjusted his earpiece, listening to Clara's voice filtered through the static. "This is the place. Crane's rarest items will be on display, and the metal might be among them." Titan's ears twitched, nostrils flaring at the scents wafting from below. The dog's instincts were razor-sharp, guiding Marcus's focus as the auction began. Inside, Crane moved through the crowd with calculated ease, the embodiment of control. Marcus tracked his movements, eyes narrowed. If the metal was here, it would almost certainly be under Crane's protection. Suddenly, a figure slipped away from the main hall, a young woman clutching a small box. Titan growled low, alerting Marcus. The woman's hurried steps betrayed her nervousness as she moved toward a side exit. Marcus didn't hesitate. He slipped from the shadows, following quietly with Titan at his heels. Outside, the night air was cool and sharp, the garden's flowers releasing their scent into the darkness. The woman paused near a stone bench, glancing over her shoulder. Marcus stepped forward, voice calm but firm. "You're making a mistake." She startled, clutching the box tighter. "I don't have a choice," she whispered. "They're watching me too. If I don't cooperate, they'll come for my family." Marcus's eyes softened. "We're on your side. Tell me what you know." Her breath hitched. Crane's auction isn't just about memorabilia. It's a front for illegal dealings, smuggling, forged documents, even bribery. The metal is more than a prize. It's a symbol they use to manipulate people. Marcus nodded slowly. "We need proof." She hesitated, then nodded. I have files, emails, ledgers, but I can't get them out alone. Clara's voice crackled in Marcus's earpiece. We'll coordinate extraction. Stay safe. Back inside, the auction's atmosphere grew more intense. Marcus returned to the shadows, mind racing. The stakes were higher than ever, and time was running out. In the days that followed, Clara's contacts provided a trove of archival documents, revealing a pattern of corruption tied to high-ranking officials dating back to the war era. The deeper they dug, the more resistance they encountered. From bureaucrats dismissing their claims to veiled threats delivered in hushed tones. One afternoon, as Marcus and Clara reviewed a stack of files in a quiet cafe, a man at a nearby table met Marcus's gaze. His eyes were cold, calculating, a silent warning. Marcus's hand instinctively moved toward his jacket, where Titan sat loyally at his side outside, waiting for the signal. The tension was palpable. They were being watched, every move scrutinized. Marcus leaned toward Clara. We have to assume they know about us now. She nodded grimly. It's only going to get harder. That night, as Marcus prepared for another surveillance operation, Titan lay by the door, alert and ready. The bond between man and dog was unspoken but unbreakable. A partnership forged in trust and courage. Marcus glanced at the medal displayed in a small case on his desk, its tarnished surface a reminder of the mission ahead. Sergeant James Mallory's legacy was more than a story to uncover. It was a battle to reclaim honor from the shadows of deceit. As dawn approached, Marcus felt the weight of the coming days settle over him. The path was fraught with danger, but with Clara's knowledge, Titan's instincts, and his own resolve, he was determined to press on. The city around them stirred to life, unaware of the quiet war unfolding beneath its surface. A war waged for truth, justice, and the memory of a hero who had been erased but never forgotten. The night was thick with tension as Marcus Hale sat in the dimly lit back room of a quiet San Diego cafe, the flickering candle casting errant shadows across the table strewn with papers and a small recorder. Clara Evans leaned in close, her eyes scanning the latest documents, while Titan lay alert nearby, ears twitching at every sound beyond the weathered walls. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together, but the full picture remained obscured by layers of deceit and silence. We need to do more than just gather evidence, Clara said, quietly, her voice edged with urgency. The truth has been buried for so long, and the powers behind this will do everything to keep it that way. We have to expose it publicly, make it impossible to ignore. Marcus nodded, his fingers tracing the edges of a folded letter containing a confidential tip from an aging war veteran who had reached out to Clara in recent days. The veteran's voice, recorded in shaky but resolute tones, recounted first-hand knowledge of Sergeant Mallory's valor and the betrayal that led to his erasure from history. He confirms what we suspected, Marcus said, replaying the recording on his phone. The veteran's hoarse voice filled the small room. Mallory was a hero, saved lives more than you know. But some folks in high places didn't want him remembered. They buried his deeds, took his medal, and rewrote the records. Clara's eyes glistened with a mix of sorrow and determination. If we can get this story to the public, to the right people, it could spark the change we need. But first, we have to get close to that auction Crane's holding. It's our best chance to find the medal and the proof tied to it. Marcus's mind raced as he formulated a plan. The auction was days away, a secretive event attended only by select collectors and insiders. Gaining entry would be difficult, even dangerous. But with Clara's research and Titan's keen senses, they had a fighting chance. We'll need disguises, cover stories, and a way to blend in, Marcus said, his military precision taking hold. "I'll handle security details and logistics. Titan and I will scout the perimeter. You'll manage inside intel and contacts." Clara nodded, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. "I've reached out to a couple of people in the veterans community who might help us get invitations. But it's risky. Crane's network is tight, and any misstep could blow our cover." Outside, the city's hum was a distant melody, oblivious to the storm gathering beneath its surface. Marcus glanced down at Titan's attentive face. The dog's loyalty and unwavering vigilance a source of strength. "Ready for this, boy?" Marcus asked softly. Titan's tail thumped once, steady and sure. The days leading up to the auction were a blur of preparation. Clara secured invitations through discreet channels, her contacts wary but willing to assist, moved by the weight of the cause. Marcus rehearsed their roles, mapped escape routes, and coordinated communication signals with precision. Titan's training was put to the test as they conducted reconnaissance missions, moving through shadows and avoiding detection. On the evening of the auction, Marcus donned a tailored suit, the fabric unfamiliar but necessary. Clara appeared poised, her demeanor calm but determined, the invitation clasped tightly in her hand. Titan stayed outside, watching and waiting, ready to act if needed. Inside the grand hall, crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over rows of rare artifacts and an assembly of San Diego's wealthiest collectors. The murmur of polite conversation and the clink of glasses masked the undercurrent of tension that Marcus felt prickling his skin. Crane was at the center, exuding control and confidence, his eyes scanning the crowd like a hawk. Marcus and Clara moved carefully, their cover intact but their senses alert. As the auctioneer began the proceedings, items passed hands quietly. Paintings, medals, documents. Marcus's gaze was fixed on the display cases, searching for any sign of the missing metal. Then, Clara's subtle nod drew his attention to a shadowed corner where a small, ornate box rested under soft light. Marcus's heart quickened. The emblem on the box's lid matched the design on Mallory's medal. But before he could move, a sharp voice interrupted the auctioneer. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special item tonight. A piece of history with a story untold until now." Crane stepped forward, holding the box aloft. "This medal once belonged to Sergeant James Mallory, a man whose valor was hidden for too long. Tonight, it returns to the light." A murmur spread through the crowd, some curious, some skeptical. Marcus's eyes locked with Crane's, who smiled thinly, as if daring them to challenge him. Suddenly, Clara leaned in close, whispering urgently, "This is our chance. If we can create a diversion, we can get close enough to secure the medal. And the documents hidden with it." Marcus nodded, signaling Titan outside through a discreet channel. The plan unfolded swiftly. A staged commotion erupted near the entrance, a loud crash followed by a shout. Titan, trained for such moments, slipped inside unnoticed, blending into the chaos. Marcus moved toward the display, his heart pounding as he reached for the box. Inside, the metal gleamed, its surface worn but unmistakable. Alongside it, a bundle of documents tied with a faded ribbon. Proof of Mallory's heroism and the conspiracy to erase him. But Crane's men were quick to react. "Stop them!" a voice barked. Marcus grabbed the medal and documents, signaling Clara. Together, they dashed toward the exit, weaving through startled guests and security personnel. Titan appeared at their side, his presence a daunting barrier that held back pursuers. Outside, the cool night air was a sharp contrast to the heated chaos inside. Marcus and Clara sprinted toward their vehicle, Titan leading the way. The engine roared to life and they sped into the night, leaving the auction and its secrets behind. Safe for the moment, Clara caught her breath. We did it. We have the evidence. Marcus held the medal carefully, the weight of history in his hands. Now we need to make sure the world knows. The days that followed were a whirlwind of strategy. Clara contacted journalists and veteran organizations, carefully vetting who could be trusted with the explosive story. Marcus prepared to face the inevitable backlash from Crane's network, knowing the fight was far from over. But with the medal and documents in their possession, they had a powerful weapon. A chance to restore Sergeant Mallory's legacy and expose the truth long buried beneath layers of corruption. As dawn broke over San Diego, Marcus looked out over the harbor, the rising sun casting golden light on the water. The journey ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and resistance. But for the first time in decades, Mallory's story was poised to be told, and Marcus, Clara, and Titan stood ready to see it through, whatever the cost. The humid air hung heavy over the dimly lit warehouse on the outskirts of San Diego as Marcus Hale crouched behind a stack of weathered crates. His breath was steady, but his heart thudded with a mix of anticipation and adrenaline. Titan sat silently beside him, muscles tense, eyes sharp as they scanned the shadows for movement. Tonight was the culmination of weeks of planning. The secret auction where Victor Crane intended to sell the stolen World War II medal and other illicit war artifacts to the highest bidder. Marcus's gaze flicked to Clara, who was concealed near the entrance, her camera poised to capture every crucial moment. The atmosphere crackled with tension. Voices echoed faintly inside, punctuated by the occasional clink of glass and the murmur of negotiations. This auction was more than a transaction. It was the final piece of a conspiracy that had silenced Sergeant James Mallory's legacy for decades. Inside, Crane moved with calculated ease, his presence commanding as he displayed the prized medal atop a velvet cushion. The crowd of elite collectors and shadowy figures circled like vultures, their eyes gleaming with greed and anticipation. Marcus's pulse quickened. The medal's gleam was unmistakable, Mallory's honor reduced to a commodity in a den of deception. Suddenly, Titan's low growl sliced through the silence, alerting Marcus to the approach of Crane's security detail. The moment had arrived. Marcus gave Clara a subtle nod, signaling the start of their plan. As the auctioneer's gavel fell, Crane's attention momentarily shifted, and Marcus sprang into action. Moving swiftly and silently, he navigated the labyrinth of crates toward the display table. Titan followed, a shadow at his heels, muscles coiled to strike. Crane's security reacted instantly, but Marcus was faster. A sharp command from Marcus sent Titan lunging forward, teeth flashing as the dog incapacitated one guard with precision. Chaos erupted as other guards scrambled, shouting orders and drawing weapons. Clara's camera clicked rapidly, capturing the pandemonium and the medal slipping from Crane's grasp. Marcus seized the opportunity, snatching the medal and tucking it safely into his jacket. The documents, proof of the conspiracy, were secured in Clara's bag. Crane's furious roar echoed through the warehouse as he lunged toward Marcus, but Titan intercepted, snarling fiercely. Marcus and Clara moved as one, weaving through the chaos toward the exit. Outside, the cool night air was a stark contrast to the frenzy inside. Marcus's eyes scanned for their escape vehicle, and Titan led the way, alert to every sound. They burst into the street just as Crane's men spilled out behind them, shouting threats and firing warning shots. The engine of their car roared to life, tires screeching as they sped away, weaving through dark alleyways and narrow streets. Marcus's hands were steady on the wheel, but his mind raced with the implications of what they had just accomplished. "This is it," Clara gasped, clutching the documents. "We have the medal and the evidence to expose everything." Marcus glanced at Titan, who rested his head on Marcus's knee, eyes bright with unwavering loyalty. The dog had been more than a partner. He was a guardian, a symbol of courage and resilience. But danger was far from over. Crane's network was vast, and Marcus knew they would stop at nothing to reclaim what was lost. Back at their safe house, Marcus laid the medal carefully on the table, its surface gleaming under the harsh light. The weight of history was palpable. Clara spread the documents across the room. Archival records, financial ledgers, secret correspondences, all tying Crane and his associates to decades of corruption and betrayal. As they reviewed the evidence, Marcus's phone buzzed, a secure message from an anonymous source confirming that descendants of the corrupt officials involved in the cover-up were still active, wielding influence in local government and law enforcement. "This goes deeper than we thought," Marcus muttered, eyes narrowing. "We're up against more than just a collector. It's a network that's protected itself for generations." Clara nodded grimly. "But now, we have what we need to bring them down." Over the following days, Marcus and Clara coordinated with trusted federal agents, carefully planning a covert operation to dismantle the corrupt network. Their information led to raids on multiple locations, arrests of key figures, and the seizure of illicit artifacts and documents. During one tense raid on a lavish estate tied to Crane's allies, law enforcement uncovered a trove of stolen war memorabilia and financial records linking the conspiracy to money laundering and political bribery. The operation sent shockwaves through the community, exposing the depths of betrayal that had kept Sergeant Mallory's heroism hidden. Throughout the upheaval, Marcus remained vigilant, knowing that the battle for justice extended beyond arrests and headlines. The community's trust had been fractured, and healing would require more than legal victories. At a press conference organized by the federal authorities, the medal was presented to Clara and Marcus, symbolizing the restoration of Mallory's honor. Reporters clamored for details as the story of the forgotten hero and the unraveling conspiracy captivated the nation. Marcus spoke with quiet resolve. Sergeant James Mallory's bravery was never in doubt. Today, we begin to right the wrongs of the past and honor the sacrifices made by those who served with courage. Clara held the medal carefully, her eyes shining with pride. This is more than a symbol. It's a reminder that truth, no matter how deeply buried, will always find a way to surface. As the community rallied around the rediscovered history, veterans and citizens alike came together to celebrate Mallory's legacy. The medal was donated to the local museum, where it would serve as a beacon of remembrance and resilience. Marcus, Clara, and Titan stood united, their journey a testament to the power of perseverance and loyalty. The dog's protective presence had been a constant through danger and discovery, embodying the enduring partnership between man and canine. Though the fight had been hard fought, the story of Sergeant Mallory was no longer lost to time. It was a story reclaimed, a legacy restored. But as Marcus gazed out over the harbor, the weight of the past mingled with the promise of the future. The shadows of corruption had been pushed back, but vigilance remained essential. The battle for truth was won, but the journey of healing and honor was only beginning. The morning sun poured through the tall windows of the San Diego Museum of History, casting warm light on the polished wooden floors and the gleaming glass cases that lined the grand hall. Today was no ordinary day. It was the day Sergeant James Mallory's medal would be officially returned to its rightful place, an emblem of valor reclaimed from decades of obscurity. The air buzzed with quiet anticipation as veterans, local officials, and community members gathered, their faces reflecting a mixture of pride, reverence, and hope. Marcus Hale stood near the podium, the weight of the moment settling over him like a mantle. Beside him, Clara Evans adjusted the display case that now housed the medal, its worn surface catching the light with a soft gleam. Titan sat loyally at Marcus's feet, eyes bright and watchful, a silent guardian of the legacy they had fought so hard to restore. The crowd hushed as the museum director stepped forward, his voice rich with emotion. Today, we honor a hero whose courage and sacrifice were nearly lost to time. Sergeant James Mallory's story reminds us that history is not just written by the victors, but preserved by those who remember. Clara took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice steady but filled with passion. For years, Sergeant Mallory's bravery was overshadowed by silence and deceit. But thanks to the tireless efforts of Marcus Hale, Titan, and many others, we have reclaimed his legacy. This medal is more than a symbol. It is a testament to the resilience of truth and the enduring spirit of those who serve. Marcus stepped forward, the crowd's applause swelling around him. I am humbled to stand here today, not as a hero, but as a witness to one. Sergeant Mallory's story is a reminder that courage doesn't always make headlines, and sometimes the greatest battles are fought in the shadows. It is our duty to ensure that no sacrifice is forgotten. The ceremony unfolded with heartfelt speeches from veterans who had known Mallory, their voices weaving personal anecdotes that brought the man behind the medal to life. A local historian recounted the painstaking research that unraveled the conspiracy to erase Mallory's name, highlighting the importance of preserving history with honesty and integrity. Outside the museum, the community gathered to celebrate. Veterans, families, and citizens shared stories, tears, and laughter, united by a renewed sense of connection and purpose. The rediscovery of Mallory's story had sparked more than remembrance. It had ignited a movement toward transparency and respect for those who served. Clara found herself surrounded by reporters and well-wishers, her work finally receiving the recognition it deserved. She spoke eloquently about the importance of vigilance in preserving history and the need to confront uncomfortable truths. Marcus, meanwhile, was approached by local officials eager to involve him in veteran outreach programs. The city was committed to healing the wounds left by corruption and neglect, and Marcus's experience made him a natural leader in the effort. One afternoon, as Marcus walked along the harbor with Titan at his side, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The medal, once lost and hidden, was now a beacon of hope and justice. The fight had been arduous, but the outcome was worth every risk. He paused to watch a group of young veterans training nearby, their determination reminding him of the bonds forged in service. Titan sat quietly, his gaze fixed on the horizon, embodying the steadfast loyalty that had carried them through. Back at the museum, Clara met with community leaders to discuss establishing a committee dedicated to transparency in local governance and historical preservation. The scars left by the cover-up were deep, but through collaboration and commitment, healing was underway. In a modest ceremony held days later, the medal was formally donated to the museum, ensuring that Sergeant Mallory's story would be preserved for generations to come. The case bearing the medal became a focal point for visitors, a symbol of courage reclaimed and injustice challenged. As the sun set over San Diego, Marcus and Clara stood together in quiet reflection. The battle to expose corruption had reshaped their lives, forging an unbreakable bond between them and Titan. Their work was far from over, but they had taken a decisive step toward justice. Marcus reached down to scratch Titan, behind the ears, the dog's tail wagging in response. "We did good, boy," Marcus murmured, "but there's still more to do." Clara smiled, her eyes shining with resolve. This is just the beginning. Mallory's story opened the door, and now it's up to us to keep it open. The community's embrace of the rediscovered history marked a turning point, a collective commitment to honor those who served and to confront the shadows that once threatened to consume their legacy. In the weeks that followed, Marcus volunteered to train search and rescue dogs, channeling his skills and Titan's instincts into new missions of service. Clara continued her advocacy and historical work, inspiring others to preserve truth and memory. The story of Sergeant James Mallory had become more than a tribute. It was a catalyst for change, a reminder that courage and loyalty endure beyond the battlefield. And as the city of San Diego moved forward, Marcus, Clara, and Titan stood at the forefront of a community healing, their journey a testament to the power of perseverance, faith, and the unyielding pursuit of justice. The morning sun cast a soft glow over the San Diego Veterans Memorial Park, where a crowd had gathered beneath fluttering flags and the quiet hum of remembrance. Among them stood Marcus Hale, his posture relaxed yet resolute, Titan by his side, alert and attentive. The air was filled with the mingled scents of salt water and blooming jasmine, a gentle reminder of the city's deep ties to the sea and those who served upon it. This day marked more than just a ceremony. It was a celebration of healing, a community coming together to honor the rediscovered legacy of Sergeant James Mallory. Veterans, families, local leaders, and citizens mingled, sharing stories and forging connections that had once been fractured by silence and betrayal. Marcus watched as an elderly veteran, his uniform adorned with medals, spoke with a group of young recruits. The spark of pride and understanding passing between them was a testament to the enduring power of history and memory. It was clear that Mallory's story had rekindled a flame of respect and unity within the community. Clara Evans moved through the crowd, her face alight with quiet satisfaction as she conversed with historians and activists dedicated to preserving the truth. Her tireless work had not only restored a forgotten hero's honor, but had inspired a broader commitment to transparency and accountability. Near the center of the gathering, a newly unveiled plaque bore Mallory's name alongside others who had served with distinction. It was a permanent reminder etched in stone, solidifying the place of those once forgotten in the collective conscience. Later, Marcus found himself seated at a round table surrounded by volunteers and veterans, discussing plans to expand community outreach programs. The wounds left by years of corruption and neglect were deep, but the determination to heal was stronger. "I want to help train more dogs like Titan," Marcus said, his voice steady. "They're not just companions. They're partners in service, search, and rescue. They give people hope when all seems lost." A fellow volunteer nodded in agreement. "You and Titan have set a standard. Your work has shown how loyalty and courage extend beyond the battlefield." Outside, Titan lay nearby, his eyes bright but calm, embodying the spirit of resilience that had carried them through so many trials. Marcus's bond with the dog was more than partnership. It was a living symbol of trust and perseverance. Clara joined them, carrying a folder filled with proposals for educational programs aimed at teaching young people about local history and the importance of preserving truth. "We have an opportunity here," she said, "to build a future where stories like Mallory's are never lost or twisted." Marcus smiled, feeling a rare sense of peace. The journey that began with a chance discovery by the harbor had blossomed into a movement, one that honored sacrifice, confronted injustice, and brought a community together. As the afternoon sun dipped toward the horizon, Marcus and Clara walked along the waterfront, the gentle lapping of waves a soothing backdrop. The city was alive with renewal, its people embracing a shared commitment to remember and protect their history. "We've come a long way," Clara said softly. but there's still so much to do. Marcus nodded, his gaze steady on the horizon. We'll keep moving forward. For Mallory, for the veterans, and for everyone who deserves to have their story told. Titan trotted ahead, ever vigilant, a reminder that loyalty and courage endure through time. The day faded into evening, but the spirit of remembrance and community healing remained strong. San Diego had rediscovered not only a hero but also itself, a city united by respect, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the pursuit of truth. And as Marcus, Clara, and Titan looked toward the future, they carried with them the lessons of the past and the hope of a legacy that would inspire generations to come. The soft glow of twilight settled over the San Diego coastline as Marcus, Hale, and Titan stood silently on a weathered pier, the ebb and flow of the Pacific whispering ancient secrets beneath their feet. The city behind them hummed with life, unaware of the quiet reflection unfolding at its edge. Marcus's gaze was distant, tracing the horizon where sky met sea, a boundary as elusive and profound as the stories they had uncovered. Titan sat alert at his side, eyes bright with unwavering loyalty, a steadfast companion through a journey that had transformed both their lives. The medal of Sergeant James Mallory, once lost to time and shadow, now rested safely in the city's museum, a beacon of courage and truth restored. Marcus's thoughts drifted to the sacrifices made by unsung heroes, the men and women who fought bravely, but whose stories never reached the pages of history books. Mallory was one among many, a symbol of quiet valor that too often goes unnoticed. The discovery and reclamation of his legacy had been more than a mission. It was a testament to the power of perseverance and faith. Clara Evans approached quietly, her footsteps soft against the weathered wood. She carried with her a worn journal, an artifact uncovered during their investigation, filled with personal reflections from Mallory himself. The pages spoke not only of battles fought, but of hope, fear, and the unbreakable bonds forged in adversity. His words remind us why we do this, Clara said gently, holding the journal open, to honor those who serve quietly, whose stories might otherwise fade. Marcus nodded, his voice steady but filled with emotion. It's about legacy, how one dog and one man can change the course of history by refusing to let the truth be buried. They stood together, the weight of the past balanced with the promise of the future. The journey had been fraught with danger, deception, and resistance, but it had also revealed the enduring strength of loyalty and courage. As night deepened, the stars emerged, scattered across the velvet sky like distant beacons. Marcus felt a profound connection to those countless souls who had served before him, their sacrifices woven into the fabric of time. He reached down, scratching behind Titan's ears, feeling the familiar warmth and trust. The dog's tail thumped softly, a reminder that some bonds transcend words and time. "Thank you, boy," Marcus murmured, "for standing with me through it all." Clara smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "Our work isn't done, but this moment, this story, shows that perseverance can bring justice. The truth will outlast even the darkest attempts to bury it." Marcus looked out once more over the water, the gentle waves a timeless rhythm. The legacy of Sergeant Mallory was secure, but the lessons endured. The importance of remembering, of standing firm, and of fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. In the heart of San Diego, a city shaped by history and courage, a new chapter had begun, one where honor was reclaimed, loyalty celebrated, and the quiet heroes finally found their voice. As Marcus, Clara, and Titan turned from the pier, they carried with them not just a story of the past, but a beacon for the future. a testament to the enduring impact that one man and one dog could have on the course of history.